Washington, D.C., everybody knows that Ma Bell is hand in hand with all the fascists that run this country. And Ma Bell wants to cut off the phone. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here. The point I would like to make here is that I would like the United States of America and its people to become aware of what's happening in South Dakota. Now, the Wounded Knee Legal Defense Offense Committee, it does have an $1,800 phone bill. I know that says $1,600, but it's $1,800. And they defend, they're the only legal concern in the state of South Dakota and North Dakota and the whole Midwestern part of the United States that is interested and an advocate in Indian rights fights. Now, the people that are going on trial for the FBI agents, we need help. But there's also women going on trial for kidnapping in the state of South Dakota. And that's kind of odd right there. Because I know the press didn't report this, but last week, 2.5 weeks ago, 2 Indian women, ages 18 and 19, were arrested by the law enforcement pigs of South Dakota and charged with conspiracy to kidnap. What they did is they gave a white man a ride, a hitchhiker, and when they let him off, he went to the police department and charged an 18 and 19-year-old Indian women with kidnapping him. The charge is so ludicrous as to be almost unbelievable. But of course, if you live in South Dakota, it's believable.
Are these women, are they in the American Indian movement?
No, their mother is a known supporter of the American Indian movement, Lois Tiger. However, these young girls, I don't know how to put it, average, I guess. They're just a couple of young Indian girls that are charged in the state of South Dakota. Now, that's just one case, one example. I can go on and on and on. We started Monday, 2 major trials in the state of South Dakota. One, an AIM leader from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Herbert Paulus, is charged with weapons charges and explosive charges. He went on trial in Hot Springs along with 3 others. Hot Springs, South Dakota, and again on Monday, my co-defendant went on trial for murder, one of the charges that I'm under. But the Wounded Knee Legal Defense Offense Committee, which is involved since, of course, Wounded Knee, we have legal workers and lawyers, of course they're all nominees, that constantly work in the Indian rights fight gratis, free. And I don't know of any other place in the country that this is happening. People that have dedicated their whole contemporary lives and beliefs just to see that Nazi America is arrested, at least a little bit, in the state of South Dakota.
I'd like to dwell on that statement in this article from the Wichita Eagle and Beacon. You said that there was some comparison with Nazi Germany and America as it is today as far as public apathy.
You see, the whole crux of the Wounded Knee Legal Defense Offense Committee in stopping the attempts of Nazi America. Now, I realize I sound like a, quote, militant, unquote, all right? And I am charged with being guilty of making all the radical statements that you hear all the time. However, I've got facts and figures to back up my statements. Now, William Kunstler who I guess if he can be half Jewish, he's it. He's half German and half Jewish. And Mark Lane, who were two of my lawyers during the Wounded Knee trial, they did, in fact, after World War II, went to Germany. They visited the concentration camps. They went around to the German people and they asked, how could you let this happen? How could you have let this happen? In each instance, the German people, time and time again, told them, well, the press didn't tell us about it. We didn't know. The government didn't tell us about it. They told us they were being taken care of in the labor camps. Of course, the parallel is Indian reservations in this country. And in every instance, when I go around the United States of America, I hear the same response from non-Indians. Well, the press is not reporting it. The government's told us that Indians are being taken care of on reservations. Well, I say, welcome to Nazi America. I do know what happens when two young girls, as I mentioned, one example, and I can give you example after example after example about the injustice of South Dakota, the provincialism that is existent there is what I call a frontier mentality. They still wish and they still hunt Indian people, and they're still waiting for the Wounded Knee Massacre to happen again. I can give you another instance on New Year's Eve, this past New Year's Eve. George Bartlett, his wife, and his 2-month-old child were severely beaten and their car completely demolished by 30 to 40 white cowboys in the state of South Dakota. I can tell you about what happened last week in Rapid City, South Dakota, where 35 white cowboys went into a known Indian bar and beat up 4 old Indian men. And no charges, nothing. But when an Indian in South Dakota is charged, all of a sudden, headlines, violence, AIM advocates violence. Indians kill FBI agents. They don't tell you the truth. In fact, they went in there and killed Joe Stunts. They don't tell you about charging those young girls with kidnapping of a white man. Can you believe it? In the state of South Dakota, any place, 2 teenagers. Like I said, it's ludicrous. And I really wish I could, give you more than a first-person experience. I wish you could just live and grab a hold of the whole experience there in South Dakota. Now, I do realize that here in California, there's a case up in the Bay Area in regards to a man that's afraid to come back to my home because of the racism there, the out-and-out Nazi. There's so much to talk about. But I'll give you another example of Nazi America. No, we got the man that's afraid to go back to South Dakota because he'll be killed. Dennis Banks. There's also the fact that the Attorney General, the highest law enforcement official elected by the people of South Dakota, has admittedly stated that the only way to take care of outspoken Indian leaders is to shoot them. Now, I'm convicted in South Dakota under an 1877 law. It's another ludicrous point. The absurdity of living in this bicentennial year in Nazi America is almost to the point where it's better to die than to continue on in this condition of slavery that we're under. When an attorney general of a state, the highest law enforcement official, runs a hate campaign, just as the Nazis did in the 30s in Germany against the Jewish people, that's how he was elected. And I wish each and every person could just read the 8-page newspaper that he put out that's filled with nothing but hate against Indian people, and that's why he's elected. I wish each and every person could just read that. It's unbelievable.
Why does this still exist?
Why? In my mind, it can be explained simply, but it's really much more complex than any simple statement. There's fear, and there's the belief by the people in this country that Indians actually want to overthrow the government of the United States of America, which I think is, at best, and again I'm going to use that word, ludicrous. The fact that the Indian people are an unknown entity, and we are, and we do know that non-Indians, in large part, are afraid of the unknown. So, we're something to be feared. Are we pagan savages? Are we human beings? Are we noble red men? Nobody knows, because of the stereotyping that's come down. But in South Dakota, while the rest of America is content to celebrate 200 years of genocide, 200 years of an existence that to me is unexplainable. But you have one little item here that talks about 4 men charged with FBI killings. The FBI, by the way, after those 2 people were killed, publicly stated in a press release issued out of their regional office from Minneapolis, Minnesota, stated, we're going to get even. We're going to even the score. That's how they put it. We're going to even the score. Anime Akwash, an Indian woman, was just recently executed by the FBI. And so they have even the score. They got Joe Stunts and now Anime Akwash. But in the meantime, we've had a few other killings, and a few other beatings, and a few other imprisonments, and a few other convictions that if I was to sit down right now and just read off the facts and figures that the Wounded Knee Legal Defense Offense Committee have, and that are a matter of public record, that are a matter of court records, that are a matter for human records, we would be here probably until the sun comes up again. That's how bad it is. And we do need help. We need assistance. Whether or not you want to overthrow the United States of America, which to me, Indian people have never advocated, and which, you know, the issue is that we want nothing to do with it. Keep your world. But you need assistance in terms of money, naturally. Like any people who suffer, of course, have financial obligations.
Is that a CBO?
We're trying to do it.
Thanks, is that a CBO?
Through defense and offense. The Supreme Court just backed me up on the decision. Supreme Court of the United States of America. So we are not I would say militants advocating anything. All we're advocating, of course, is
I don't know if you can see it. Mine's totally lit up purple with LED
I want to
lights.
know how many people are really interested in these 2 girls that are in jail. it's true. But there were 3 other white people in Belfouche, South Dakota, who shot the sheriff of that town, shot up his home, shot at his family, and they were released, one on a $5,000 bond and 2 of them on a $1,000 bond. They shot a law enforcement official. And we have 2 Indian girls at $15,000 bond for allegedly kidnapping a white man. By the way, that white man has been dishonorably discharged from the Marine Corps, has a felony record, has been in the institutions of penal correction, and I use that term loosely. You know? And yet he charges these 2 young girls. Anime Aquash. FBI publicly claimed they're going to even the score. And then they come out with a press release when we had her body exhumed. They claimed, their pathologist claimed that she died of exposure. We, through her family and the Wounded Knee Legal Defense Offense Committee, had her body exhumed. And the day that it was exhumed, the FBI comes out with a press release stating, we deny that she was an FBI informant. The American Indian Movement from some woman in Oklahoma claimed that we were saying she was an FBI informant, and the FBI denied it. But actually no charges have been brought. You see what they're setting us up for? Right now there's a grand jury investigation in the state of South Dakota. That's another farce. And I can run down the list of facts and figures for you if you need be. But we do know that the indictments are going to come down. They're going to come down against the American Indian Movement people because of what the FBI has already put out. We investigated Anna Mae and her execution. And our pathologist, who is the deputy coroner of Ramsey County in the state of Minnesota, and one of the acknowledged and well thought of experts in the pathological field, he publicly stated that it was a very crude and primitive autopsy investigation the FBI conducted. When they claimed, the FBI claimed, and it's in the press, that she had a minor contusion on her head. And here there was a bullet hole, you know?
They said it was an oversight. Do you see a lot of these oversights?
Byron DeSouza, who would just kill a legal worker. A man that's been to college and worked with the legal profession and happened to be Indian and happened to publicly sympathize with the American Indian Movement, was just murdered on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I can talk about the Cheyenne River Indian Reservation. I can talk about Crow Dog, our spiritual leader. You know, when the Berrigans were incarcerated for their beliefs, there was a public outcry and public indignation and support for those religious leaders. Our religious leader has been in prison since November, only because he's connected with the American Indian Movement. But he is a religious leader nevertheless. He was just released this past week on a $25,000 appeal bond.
What happened with him?
Crow Dog?
Yeah.
They have what the FBI has termed as Operation Cable Spice. Okay? That's in collusion with local law enforcement agencies. And they had a dry run at Crow Dog's home on the Rosebud Reservation, where they come in with their fatigue outfits that are camouflage, you know, just like Vietnam, flak jackets, helicopters, and believe it or not, rubber dingies, you know, little rubber rafts on a little goddamn creek that you can jump over, you know, but it was a dry run, you know, and 250 FBI agents and marshals attacked Crow Dog's home. And if I told you what happened to Crow Dog and his family, and why he is in prison now. He's threatened with prison at this point. You would see the injustice, but I don't think we have the time to get into the specifics of our religious leader being sent to prison. By the way, while he's in prison, he went to eight different joints since November. They just kept transferring him. And they kept him in isolation. Because they know we don't have that many lawyers in this country. He's been in prison in New York, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Illinois, Indiana, California. And no public outcry. Not a whisper. And what about anime? Not a whisper.
One question about Crow Dog. What is he charged with?
Assault on a white man. It's a complicated case. His nephew was, by the way, convicted by an all-white jury. And in court, and in testimony, these two people, the white people, stated that they beat up Crow Dog's nephew. And then went to Crow Dog's home to jack up the whole family. And Crow Dog, of course, kicked him off his land. And in the process of kicking him off, I guess, a few bruises and contusions became a reality, at least for those people. And so Crow Dog was arrested and sentenced in federal court to prison.
What do you see all these attacks and the like leading to?
What I see is a corruption and a complete disregard for the Constitution of the United States. And what we ask is that the white man, and we keep proving it in court, through the 8th Circuit of Court of Appeals, all the way to the Supreme Court. Like, I got another case, as I mentioned earlier, that's the Supreme Court has backed me up. What I see is a period, if you think Agnew and his rhetoric and Nixon were bad, I see this country going downhill. I see that, we're bearing the brunt of this violation of the Constitution of the United States continuously, every day. And it's just a matter of time until the rest of America begins to be put in. I can see it all. Look at the United Nations right now as a matter of proof. Pat Moynihan, the ex-U.S. ambassador, proclaimed publicly the dictatorial powers of the majority, he said, is what's happening in the United Nations. But just think of that statement. What is this country run by? The majority, right? That's the whole concept of the election coming up. The majority. That's the whole concept of the primaries. And yet he made that statement in the United Nations because, according, again, to the white man, the third world powers can now outvote the white man.
Tell me specifically what you mean when you say the white man.
I guess I should make myself clear because I do realize that the English language is a primitive language and not very expressive. When I say white man, I'm talking about a philosophy of life, a state of mind. Because, we have white Indians, we have white whites, there's white blacks, there's, all the names that go with those people. Apples or niggers or sellouts or John Birchers or whatever. And when I talk about the white people, I'm talking about a state of mind. That believe in the supremacist attitude and the rule of country that on paper says the majority rules, but when the corporations rule, outcry of indignation in this bicentennial year about the perverseness that's in Washington, D.C. and the United States.
Freaking hailing. Look at this.
Perverseness in South Dakota, where
It's freaking hailing.
shrine of democracy, four faces, Mount Rushmore is not celebrated. And in South Dakota, there's Mount Rushmore. In South Dakota, there's also a town by the name of Custer, a man guilty of killing women and children.
It's freaking hailing. My glasses are gone too. Damn it. Oh, that fucking hurts.
They also named the county after him. They also named